So far we have discussed that the immune system has three lines of defenses. The first line is the preformed mechanism of the innate immunity that always ready to act, function from the beginning of infection. When somebody is, infected with some pathogen, it means that there are certain mechanisms which are already there, which are already in action there, you know. These are the mechanisms of the innate or the inborn immune system. Innate is what you are born with. That is the innate quality of human beings to have these defenses in their bodies. Then there are induced mechanisms of innate immunity that are activated after the pathogen has been detected by cells, and gene expression or protein synthesis has been started for making that particular response. And it takes some time, from a few hours to a couple of days. So that's the primary response of your body when the pathogen is already, when the pathogen has been detected inside your body. Then the body cells, because that detection, the process of detection involves different kind of cells, and the cells have to respond in certain way. And the response of the cell is to secrete some kind of cytokines, for instance. And what are those cytokines? Actually, different sets of genes that are expressed inside cells once the cell has come in contact with some pathogen. Okay, so these are cytokine genes that are responsible for making that initial, response. Then there are adaptive immune responses, which are reserved for pathogens that escape from the innate immune responses. In our previous lectures, I told you that most of the infections would be cleared by the innate immune system. And you don't know about such infections because they're not producing any symptoms of disease. If some pathogen, for instance, has entered your body, which of course they do on daily basis, but you do not feel as if you are sick. You do not feel any symptoms of that disease because the innate immune system is effectively eliminating those pathogens from your system. But some of the pathogens, they are very clever and they can escape this barrier of the innate immune system, many different barriers of the innate immune system, including the skin barrier and mucous membrane barriers, which have been breached, and that's why the pathogen has entered the body, but also the cellular barriers, which are responsible for clearing that pathogen from the system. The innate immune system, the cells of the innate immune system that we are talking about. So if all these strategies have failed, then the immune system is going to utilize another force, and that is the force of the cells of the adaptive immune system. Okay? So many pathogens can escape the innate immune system, and these diseases that you see around the world are, you see different people are sick with different conditions and hospitalized in labs doing testing for all these different pathogens. You should imagine that all these pathogens being detected in these labs, people being treated in the hospitals, and in all these cases, these pathogens have escaped the innate immune responses in the sick people. And also, I just would like to add that this is just a fraction of the pathogens that can breach, these barriers of the innate immune system, and they would move just to the next phase to be dealt with by adaptive immune responses. Okay, so the adaptive immune response is very flexible. It is highly specific recognition, as you know, and the immunity or protection which is generated in your body is also long lasting. Sometimes this kind of immunity can persist for lifelong. Okay, we call it lifelong immunity in some infections. In case of certain pathogens, it can last for 5 or 10 years as well. Okay, so due to more specific recognition, more specific molecules are generated for neutralizing that pathogen. So the pathogen cannot escape adaptive immune responses normally, but in certain conditions they can do. And those are very serious conditions that would be discussed in the probably in the last lecture. Then what are the preformed mechanisms that we are talking about? The preformed mechanism of innate immunity, which are always ready to act, function from the beginning of infection. What are these? These are different barriers, and you can go into the detail of these different types of barriers. Just to briefly tell you about the barriers, which include the skin barrier and gut, lungs, eyes, nose, oral cavity, and there are different, uh, mechanisms that are going to protect your body from the invading pathogens. For instance, the protection can be mechanical in some cases. In some cases, the protection is chemical. In some cases, it can be microbiological. Microbes are protecting your body from the dirty microbes, from the bad microbes. So, for instance, if you look at the skin is protecting your body from entry of the pathogens in so many different ways. For instance, if you look at this column, you can see the first one, the skin, gut, and lungs all have epithelial cells that are joined by tight junctions. So if the cells are joined by tight junctions, it means the cells would not allow the pathogens or the microbes to enter through the junctions into the body. Because if the skin barrier is crossed, the pathogen is going to cause infection. Then there is a longitudinal flow of air in the case of skin and gut. And that longitudinal flow of air is a mechanical way, it's a mechanical way to get rid of the pathogens or to flush out or flush off, the pathogens that are somehow stick to your skin or the oral cavity, for instance. Then there are different fatty acids, for instance, the chemical barrier that we are talking about the skin. So you just look at this column, under the skin. There are different fatty acids which can actually, free fatty acids on the skin which can protect the skin from different pathogens. And there are also some antimicrobial peptides produced by certain other microbes that can be, bactericidal. They can kill other bacterial or pathogenic organisms. And the skin also have a lot of, microbiota associated with it. So when the microbes are already, associated with your skin on the outer surface of your skin, they are not going to let other microbes enter through the skin into your body, So that's another kind of protection that you are having with intact skin, okay? Then you can talk about the gut having similar mechanical support. Then there is chemical support in the form of low pH in the stomach, for instance, which is bactericidal. Many microbes are killed in your stomach as a result of this low pH or acidic pH, or antimicrobial enzymes which are produced there, and they are also acting against the microbes, or antimicrobial peptides produced there. So they are similar kind of productions in skin, in the gut, lungs, eyes, nose, and the oral cavity. You can just go through these procedures. There are just some examples that I just want to tell you about, that in some cases, for instance, certain fatty acids, certain unsaturated fatty acids, they can kill Staphylococcus aureus, for instance, which is a very notorious pathogen. And the strategy that is used here by the body is to use the unsaturated fatty acids or incorporate the unsaturated fatty acids into the membrane of the Staphylococcus aureus, which is associated with the skin. And once the unsaturated free fatty acids are part of the membrane of Staphylococcus aureus, then this is an indication for the cells under the skin, which include these keratinocytes, etc., to produce pro-inflammatory cytokines. Pro-inflammatory cytokines means cytokines that are going to start this war against the pathogen. They would, these cytokines are going to promote this process of inflammation. We call it the pro-inflammatory cytokines. They are going to set the alarm, to tell everybody to come and fight with the pathogen, and kill that pathogen. Signaling molecules, you can say. So these are pro-inflammatory cytokines which are secreted by these cells in large quantities, which induce the status of inflammation in the tissue. And when there is high inflammation in the tissue, it is going to kill the bacteria. Okay? So the strategy is to use fatty acids, incorporate these fatty acids on the surface of the skin in the membranes of these bacteria, and to use that information for later use in the form of increased pro-inflammatory cytokines secretion by the body cells to deal with it. Now the microbiota, this is very important. You have heard about the commensal microbes. And the commensal microbes, when somebody is burned, these microbes by that time are not associated with the body, the newborn. Okay, the newborn is divided up to any type of microbes associated with them. But after birth, as you go along, these microbes would associate with different people when they interact with people. Their parents are interacting with the kid, other people are interacting with the kid, different kind of diets that the kids would experience. So these microbes actually are there associated with different beings in the surrounding of that particular kid. Okay, and now they are going to establish themselves inside this particular newborn, and they establish themselves quite easily because these microbes have been co-evolving with the human species and our ancestors for millions and millions of years. Okay, so this kind of association is very easy for these microbes, but not for others. Association, this is a symbiotic association that these microbes have actually they are developed with the human species. So the symbiotic relationship is benefiting not only the human being but also the microbe. The microbe is getting something, and the human also is getting something out of that relationship. So this is called a symbiotic relationship. So these, as I told you, have been co-evolving with the placental mammals since 100 million years, as people have estimated using different, phylogenetic studies. Okay, and they colonize the skin and the mucous membrane. if you look at the composition, there are different, microbes, but mostly you can say different bacterial species that have been characterized include 1,000 different bacterial species that associate with your skin and the mucous membrane of your internal organs. And if you look at the number of cells, the ratio of these cells is this one, H1 ratio C10. H is for human and C is for the commensal. So if there is one human cell, there are 10 bacterial cells or 10 commensals. So there are 10 times more, microbial cells in your body than the number of your own body cells. So these have implications for all the functions, physiology of all the functions that are taking place there inside your body. Because these, if you have 3 billion, a billion cells or 3 billion cells or whatever the number is, 10 times the number of those cells would be the microbial cells. So they would be producing, they are living entities, they would be producing lots of different substances inside your body. And if your body is not happy with all that, they will be producing lots of material there, more than your own body cells are producing. And if your body is not happy with that, your body will die. Or your body would try to expel these microbes out of it, but nothing like that is happening. Which means that it is a happy relationship between these microbes and your body. And the products that these microbes are making are used inside your body for different purposes, which include, for instance, your digestion, which may include other functions of your body. You may know that, the types of microbiota and, the number of microbes of different species have been correlated with different conditions or different diseases. If their number, for instance, goes down, it is, predisposition to develop different conditions, or it is, you can say, a kind of risk factor for certain diseases, including some cancers, which can also occur if this microbiota is disturbed, their population is disturbed. Okay? So they always compete for space in nutrients on the mucous membrane and on the skin, on your skin as well. Okay? Because if there is a single pathogenic microbe, for instance, which has attached itself to, which is there on your skin or on the mucous membrane, that pathogenic microbe is going to look for nutrients in order to survive and replicate and, have progeny in order to cause, productive infection. But if there are more of these commensal microbes on the skin or mucous membrane, they are going to consume all the nutrients, not leaving enough for the pathogenic microbe to survive or thrive there. And in this way, they can also protect. They are not going to give space to these microbes to enter into the tissues of your body. The pathogens are not always competitive. For instance, you can take the example of Clostridium. Somebody who has taken lots of antibiotics without, any reason. Some people would do that. Some people eat even antibiotics, even, when they do not have any infections. Is prophylaxis, for instance. Some people, normally for prophylaxis you use different vaccines. Prophylaxis means that you do not have infection yet, but you are using some kind of material, some product in order to prevent that condition. Okay? This is vaccination. You use vaccines for that. But I have seen many people using antibiotics for prophylaxis. So antibiotics can kill, your normal microbiota as well, which is associated with your skin. The most important one is associated with your gastrointestinal tract. So if you are using if you are experiencing this irrational use of antibiotics, it can cause not only many diseases, also some growth problems in many people. You know, for instance, people who would destroy their microbiota at a very early stage, would experience stunted growth. And many kids who are using antibiotics, their parents are very worried about them, and every now and then the parents would just go for some antibiotic course. If the child is a little bit uneasy, so the mother would come and check the temperature and ask the dad to go and get a bottle of antibiotic. So that these circles are going to damage the microbiota inside the intestine. In that microbiota, which is being established there in kids, and you are destroying it continuously, it means that it can cause many problems. And some people have associated with it with different growth problems in kids as well. So these are just some of the barriers. You can just go into the detail. There is no, nothing difficult about it. So I would suggest that you can read further about these different barriers, including the importance of these different secretions like sebum or mucus, which is not allowing many pathogens to get associated with, the mucosa or the mucous membrane. Okay, so you can because of its consistency. So these are things that are very easy to understand,